Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today, we have a lot to cover. We're going to go over winners and losers from the NBA draft that finished up yesterday. We'll talk about our winners in the first segment. I got 4 teams there, and then we'll talk about our losers. I've got 3 of them there in the second segment. Then we are going to continue our coverage of the NFL offseason and predictions for the upcoming 2024-2025 regular season, this time talking about the New York Giants officially finishing off the NFC East. We will go over the entirety of the NFC East standings, the Giants schedule game by game, and what the Giants did this offseason to improve or get worse. Depending on how you look at it here. And then we're going to finish off our show today. It is Friday. We have our power rankings out there, so we're going to go over our weekly MLB power rankings to close out our show today. But before we get into all of that, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the chat, throw it in the comments. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you guys for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to get right into it here with the NBA draft. The NBA draft finished up yesterday. We covered a lot of round 2 live. Today we're going to go over winners and losers from the draft. And starting off with our NBA winners, no better place than to start off with the Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers are my first winner for the NBA draft from last night. You talk about maybe the steal of the entire draft in round 1, getting Dalton Knecht at pick 17. Dalton Knecht, who was, one of the best, if not the best scorers in all of the NBA or in all of college basketball last season, averaging 22 on a really good Tennessee team. He is a little bit older, but he's a guy that can help, contribute to an NBA team right away. And where the Lakers are sitting, they needed to add more pieces, they needed to add more scoring, and he's not the greatest defensively. But offensively, he makes up for it, and pairing him with LeBron James, pairing him with Anthony Davis, who can help make up for some of that defensive liability there, Austin Reeves on the outside, and whoever else they have at point guard. Maybe it'll be D'Angelo Russell, we don't really know yet. But I think the Lakers really knocked it out of the park. And their second round pick, Bronny James, it's just a cool story, right? As much as he needs to develop and he won't be ready right away, being able to having LeBron James being able to play with his son is worth a 55th overall draft pick, right? This isn't an egregious pick. He gets to walk the stage. He gets to shake the commissioner's hand. He gets to go through the process, and then he gets to play on a team with his dad, right? This is the first time that has ever happened in NBA history. It's a really cool moment to see. And, whether or not he works out, I definitely don't think he'll be ready game 1. Really even maybe in his first season. I know that his agent was saying that they were not going to sign any kind of 2-way deal, so he'll just eat up space on the bench. But there's plenty of guys that eat up space on the bench that never play. Your Thanasis of the league, right? And that's not to say that Bronny can't develop into something good, but I really like what this Lakers team did. Getting Dalton Knecht there at pick 17 is a huge, huge steal. So they are one of the winners here of the NBA draft. Another winner here that I have is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the Minnesota Timberwolves had an interesting draft, right? They only really had 1 pick in this draft. They sent all their picks away to go and get Rudy Gobert from the Jazz. That was a huge trade, and probably wasn't worth all those assets they gave up, but they were able to make a trade giving up 2 future firsts to get the rights for Rob Dillingham after the Spurs drafted him at 8 overall. That pairing him in that backcourt with, Anthony Edwards being able to move the ball around. His passing is going to be huge, being able to spread the floor more. You talk about the impact that we saw a guy like Mike Conley have on that roster when he was healthy in the playoffs, and what we saw when he was out of those games in the playoffs, especially in the Western Conference Finals. He missed a good chunk of those games, and his ability to move the rock, be a leader. Rob Dillingham could step into that, and if he is able to, develop a little bit defensively, you are losing a small step there defensively because Rob Dillingham is not at the same level as a Mike Conley, but you're getting better offensively, and the ability to have a guy like him bring the ball up, be a playmaker, is something that they were really missing in Minnesota. And I think that's a huge, huge step for them as they continue to gear up for what is going to be a very, very tough Western Conference. Their other pick there at 27 and Terrence Shannon Jr., not as big of a deal. His shooting, it needs a little bit of work, but he can come in and contribute right away, right? His defense is going to be a little bit is going to be part of why they picked him here. But really the reason why I have them up here in my winners is because they were able to pull off a trade for Rob Dillingham, a type of talent that, without having any picks for the next 5 years ish, it's going to be really hard for them to get. So they get a great playmaker, a guy that can really help contribute and be a great backcourt partner for Anthony Edwards as they continue to move on forward with their championship window. Next team that I have for winners here is the Washington Wizards. And the Washington Wizards, we talk about winning drafts. The Washington Wizards are never up here. But they had 3 first-round picks, and I think they did a really good job with all of them. First of all, Alex Sarr falls to them at 2, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on, but I thought he was the best prospect in this draft. You talk about a guy who's 7 foot with a 7'4" wingspan, the ability to shoot, comes in and plays great defense right away. Pair him up with Bilal Coulibaly. It's going to be a nice young duo there in the front court, and then they get a couple of shooters there with Bub Carrington and Keyshawn George. Bub Carrington comes in, both of them shot over 40% from 3 in college, and this Wizards team isn't that close to being contenders, right? This isn't a Wizards team that they add these 3 guys to Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly, Kyle Kuzma, and they're going to be playoff contenders, right? But they just put together a great draft, and if these guys develop the way that they are expected to. Alex Sarr especially is the guy that I am most excited for in this class. So I'm high on the Wizards class. Excuse me. I'm really high on the Wizards class here. And I think for the first time in a very, very long time, the Wizards did a good job drafting. That's not something that we're used to saying, right? And development is going to be a big part of any of this because there's not too many guys in this draft that are slam dunks right away, right? But, there is the possibility you have to project here. This is a big upside draft, right? And as long as these teams develop them the way that we see in the Wizards, might not have the greatest track record of developing players, but new regime, new coach, new GM come in recently. I believe in this Wizards team. I was very happy with the way that the Wizards were able to put a draft together. And the last winner that I had on the night was the Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers, it's not that they had a huge number of draft picks, right? But they were able to go and get not only one of the guys that's the most NBA ready in the draft at number 7, a guy who could have gone number 1 in Donovan Clingan to help bolster that front court down low. But they also were able, we were just talking about the Wizards, and Danny Advia, is a great piece for the Blazers to have. They had to give up some picks for it, but being able to get Denny Avdia and Donovan Clingan in this draft for a team that is still young and is still growing, I think they did a phenomenal job there sitting pat at 7, and they're a part of my winners club right there. Sadu Barry says the Wizards and the Knicks won the draft. I do really like what the Knicks did. I don't think they fall all the way in my winners territory, but what the Knicks were able to do, especially in that second round, where they had all those guys go. Tyler Kolek, Kevin McCullough Jr., Ariel Hukporti. Kevin McCullough Jr. is someone that I was kind of high on here at a Kansas. Obviously, he helped lead that team to the championship just a year ago. But what the Knicks were able to do, again, with all these trades, all the trades that they were able to make, the second round they really cleaned up. Again, it wasn't like this incredible draft. I don't have them all the way up in my top of winners, but they had a solid draft and they did really good with the resources that were there for them to take. But anyway, let me know who you thought were the draft winners. In the next segment here, we're going to go over the draft losers. Once again, my draft winners were the Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Wizards, and the Blazers. Let me know what you think of that. I appreciate all of you guys for sticking around, talking some sports with me, but we will be right back with some NBA losers coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.